Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here. Time for another Patreon sponsored blind reaction. And this one comes to you courtesy of the Lexus, who has requested that I react to a video called Johnny vs. Sonic Adventure by SomecallmeJohnny. So, yeah, more Sonic. But this time it's not a compilation of shipping like so many of the previous Sonic videos have been. This time we actually got a review of one of the games, Sonic Adventure. And it's by a reviewer I've never heard of, SomecallmeJohnny, but hopefully he'll be pretty good, and hopefully it's an entertaining video. But I'm actually kind of interested to take a look at one of the games, just an in-depth review, or whatever this is going to be. I don't really know exactly what the format's going to be, but I'm thinking it's a review. The requester did call him a reviewer, so that's probably probably what this is going to be. But I'm interested, yeah, after all these other Sonic videos, just to kind of take another look at one of the games and see what they offer and what they're all about. And hopefully it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll make for an interesting video. I don't know, but eager to find out, so let's just go ahead and get this started. And here we go. Johnny versus Sonic Adventure. Wonder who's gonna win in this matchup.
Before we begin, let's get a few things cleared up here. Now, if you've been following this channel since November of 2008,
nope,
you might have remembered
never even heard of you. In 2008, wow, you've been
no longer have hosted here. They were very
been at it for a while.
Of all of Sonic the Hedgehog's 3D titles, from Sonic Adventure to Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Okay, Sonic Adventure is the first 3D one.
Later reviewed a few months after it was released. Now, around the time of making these reviews, I was still trying to establish an identity for myself, and while I'm not exactly sure if I found one yet or not, as the months and years went on, the more I looked at the videos, the more I began to dislike them. I mean, back then I didn't even have a Dazzle or a Hot Pop. I just stuck this camera in front of the TV, turned the lights off, and hopefully
kind of
eventually I gave Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 a full review,
lo-fi approach.
I also later took down because in the end I thought I could have done a much better job and not sound so forced. Now, ever since I deleted those videos, I always had the intention.
Definitely understand being dissatisfied with your early work.
Another thing, and I think this is really important. Now, even though I'm a really big Sonic fan, I do not play these games nearly the amount of times I do the classic games. In fact, I will go and say right now that these games are
those are the ones I know
and well worth your time. Now, that's not to say they're all terrible, but I thought I'd get that out there as a heads up. I also won't be reviewing Sonic and the Secret Rings for this month because my plate is already full enough as it is. I promise I'll get to it one day, but for now, I'm just sticking with the main titles. So over 4 years after the reviews were initially made, I think it's finally time we give these games the reviews they rightfully deserve. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Month of Sonic. Oh, fuck it. Who am I kidding? I can't review these games in a month span. We're already 2 weeks into November.
Oh.
Fuck it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Sonic the Hedgehog marathon. Unfortunately, that also means I have to delay a certain other month of that I have planned, but I promise you guys the wait will be worth it. So, let's get started.
Okay.
So in case it wasn't obvious enough at this point, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. The classic titles are games that I always make sure to take some time out of my schedule to play. If I'm not popping in Sonic 3 and Knuckles on my Sega Genesis, I'm playing Sonic CD on my Android phone. I own multiple copies of each game and I hold no regrets. During the 16-bit era, Sonic was on top of the world. Kids loved them, the games are great, and why?
Oh.
In 1996,
what is that?
People were amazed when Mario made his debut in the 3D world with Super Mario 64.
Great game.
So naturally, all eyes were on Sonic to make the jump as well, but, well, where do I begin? Well, I guess we could start with Sonic 3D Blast, a game I already covered in the last month of Sonic, and I think you guys are already well aware of what I think of that game, no matter what version you're playing. But before that, there was another Sonic title being developed as Sonic's first true 3D adventure. Its name, Sonic Extreme, and it was to be released for the Sega Saturn.
Very 90s title.
It was cancelled due to an overwhelming amount of development hell, and the only things we have left are these conceptual videos that make me glad the game was cancelled.
Wow.
Sorry
yeah, it looks pretty awful.
I wasn't digging the whole fisheye lens, and it could be just me, but it looked like it would have been a pain in the ass to control. In 1997, the Saturn saw the release of Sonic Jam, a compilation of Sonic 1, 2, and 3 with added features and such. But what made this game stick out was the Sonic World feature, which had you control Sonic in a 3D hub world where you could listen to music, watch videos, and just mess around. While nothing too remarkable, it was the closest thing we've ever gotten to a 3D Sonic game at that point. Finally, there was Sonic R, which, well, you guys know. So yeah, Sonic had
I don't know,
hell of a hard time making the proper jump into the third dimension, but in 1998, it finally happened. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Sega Dreamcast.
Dreamcast
originally released in Japan of 1998 and 1999 for everyone else. One of the first games released for the system was Sonic Adventure, marking
another
the first
reason
time
I haven't
Sonic
played
made
it.
his true jump into the 3D world. This wasn't a racing game or a proof of concept. No, it was a Sonic game brought into the 3D world. You had your speed, you had your platforming, you had your loops, bosses, rings, power-ups, everything except for special stages. I remember the commercial
pretty good.
Yesterday. There's a party inside the Dreamcast and Sonic spinning the wheels like nothing else.
Man, stay off the light speed.
My bad.
It got me excited. I wouldn't own a Dreamcast until 2001, but when I got my hands on it, one of the first games I owned was Sonic Adventure. And Evolution 2, but that was a gift along with Echo the Dolphin. I spent hours in the game, mastering each Sonic stage, being amazed by the graphics, and absolutely rocking it out with the soundtrack. It's been 14 years since the game's debut and 11 years since I first played it. Is Sonic Adventure still a good game to be had? Well, let's begin with the story. Initially, you can only start with Sonic, but as you move along, you'll be able to select different characters and view the story from their perspective. The game begins in Station Square,
got a
a city
robot in
located
there
somewhere
something.
undisclosed in Sonic's world. Just seconds later, we see our beloved blue hero jumping rooftops and enjoying the view of the skyline. However, almost immediately after, Sonic notices that the police are gathering and are surrounding this mysterious blue creature that the game tells us is named Chaos. After giving it a boop in the head, Sonic
something to do with the
eventually
Chaos
comes across
Emeralds?
Tails, who's testing out his new biplane, the Tornado 2, using a Chaos Emerald as a fuel source. The two head over to the Mystic Ruins where they encounter Dr. Robotnik, who Sonic insultantly addresses as Eggman. Actually, Eggman is what Robotnik was called in Japan. Yeah, Dr. Eggman, that's his real name. Robotnik is something us Americans came up with, and honestly, while I'm fine with both names, I do find it a bit difficult to take a name like Dr. Eggman seriously. Anyway, Dr. Robotnik informs Sonic that he's after the Chaos Emeralds and wants to use them to power up Chaos, who will become all-powerful when fed all 7 of them. He wants to use Chaos's power to destroy Station Square and build Robotnik Land over the ruins. I never exactly understood why Robotnik needed to destroy Station Square specifically in order to build his own city. I mean, isn't there plenty of room for both cities? Did he destroy Station Square when he built Eggman Land and Sonic Unleashed? Actually, that's a rather strong possibility. At this point, the story becomes rather rudimentary. Ha, haven't used that word yet. As Sonic and Tails complete the first few stages, they start collecting Chaos Emeralds. Unfortunately, they have a rather miserable time holding on to them. Every time they nab an emerald, they end up losing it to Robotnik, either by means of stupidity or knockout gas. As the story unfolds, Chaos becomes stronger with each emerald it absorbs, leading to many boss encounters with every character that encounters him. It turns out Sonic and Tails aren't the only ones on a journey. Knuckles finds himself hunting down Chaos when he sees the creature shatter the Master Emerald, causing Angel Allen to fall into the ocean. Knuckles makes it his duty to collect the broken pieces of the emerald, which causes him to butt heads with Sonic on the occasion. Amy, returning from Sonic CD, also makes her playable debut because she apparently lives in Station Square, and this bird forced her into the plot. As such, she constantly finds herself being chased by this robot sent by Dr. Robotnik, which is after the Chaos Emerald located inside the bird's pendant. Eventually, all 4 meet up inside Dr. Robotnik's flying fortress, the egg carrier, where quite a number of things go down. Amy ends up befriending one of Dr. Robotnik's elite robots, E-101 Gamma, who develops a conscience after meeting Amy.
E-102.
After Sonic and Tails run amok inside the egg carrier, it begins to lose altitude. While Tails takes Amy to safety, Sonic and Knuckles stay aboard and encounter Chaos, charged up with 6 Chaos Emeralds. There's also a big purple cat here for some reason.
Yeah, about that.
Back. Sonic and Knuckles defeat Chaos once and for all, with Sonic making his escape while on Dr. Robotnik's tail. Knuckles fully reconstructs the Master Emerald, causing Angel Allen to float high in the sky once more. Back in Station Square, Tails sees that Dr. Robotnik, out of desperation and because Chaos was defeated, prepares to destroy the city with a giant fucking missile, but lucks out when the missile turns out to be a dud. Sonic, after landing flat on his face from a height clearly above 30,000 feet, finds himself inside the Lost Temple located deep within the Mystic Ruins after being goaded there by this mysterious light. Before Sonic can make anything out of it, though, he spots Dr. Robotnik and the two go at it one last time before Sonic takes out Robotnik once and for all. Meanwhile, in plot number 4, Amy finds her missing parents, one of which was the bird located inside E-101 Gamma, who blows up after duking it out with one of Robotnik's mechs in an attempt to free the animal inside. I'm getting a bit dizzy here, so let's wrap things up. Turns out Chaos wasn't completely destroyed back on the egg carrier and manages to swipe all 7 Chaos Emeralds underneath the hero's noses, turning against Dr. Robotnik in the process. With all Chaos Emeralds at his disposal, Chaos becomes perfect Chaos and completely floods Station Square.
That's pretty cool.
Don't worry though, no casualties. I'm serious, not a single goddamn person
died
from any of this.
Really?
You can see that the streets are clearly crowded the instant perfect Chaos makes a move. Just mere moments later, we see the streets are completely barren with no human in sight. Forget Sonic the Hedgehog. The fastest things alive are the citizens of Station Square. It's here that we find out the glimmering light is Tikal, a girl from an ancient Echidna tribe that previously guarded the Master Emerald. I haven't brought much attention to this, but I might as well now. Throughout each character's respective story, Tikal would occasionally interrupt the player's progress to provide some backstory on either herself or Chaos. Tikal's father, Pakamade or whatever, wanted all the Chaos Emeralds for total conquest. Chaos was originally a guardian of the Child, these cute little creatures that do nothing but sing in horrible unison. One night, Pakapak raised the Master Emerald Shrine, harming all the Child in the process, causing Chaos to retaliate by absorbing all the Chaos Emeralds and destroying the Echidna tribe. Tikal managed to seal both herself and Chaos into the Master Emerald to stop his rampage, but was released when Dr. Robotnik smashed her emeralds into pieces, kicking off the game's plot. Tikal pleads with Sonic to stop Perfect Chaos, and Sonic does just that by absorbing all the positive energies from the Chaos Emeralds, becoming Supersonic in the process. After ramming into Perfect Chaos's head enough times, Supersonic neutralizes Chaos, causing him to become good again. Tikal thanks Sonic and departs into the afterlife with Chaos. The day is saved, but Station Square is still left in complete shambles, so does that mean Dr. Robotnik can build Robotnik Land now? Just curious. So that's Sonic Adventure's story, and overall, well, in terms of each character's individual story, it's fine. Sonic's can be summed up as just wanting to stop Dr. Robotnik, which is pretty basic for a Sonic game, but it works. And Tails is pretty much the same thing with a bit of confidence building thrown into the mix. Knuckles is only trying to restore the Master Emerald, and Amy learns to stick up for herself. However, when trying to connect these stories together for the sake of having a major villain, it's rather sloppy. Personally, you may have noticed that I've neglected to mention E101 Gamma or Big the Cat, who have their own stories, but in terms of the overall plot, they mean absolutely nothing. Gamma's story involves him turning against Robotnik and destroying the other E101 robots, but in the end, Gamma dies, allowing the bird inside to escape, which is good for the bird and all, but what does any of this have to do with Chaos and such? And Big, nothing happens here. It's just a cat who wants his frog back. Why is he here? His frog swallows a bit of chaos and an emerald, leading to a wild goose chase, but it just comes off as arbitrary. You can take Big out of the story and it would impact nothing. Tikal herself is not well integrated into the main story. Instead of finding a good way to explain what she's all about in addition to the origins of Chaos, the game just decides to interrupt each character's quest with exposition that comes off as annoying and disorganized. She also does this with Gamma and Big the Cat, who have no significance to the main plot. I mean, look at them. Why are they being shown any of this?
The servers are the 7 Chaos Emeralds, unified by one that is the controller.
This reaches its peak at the final part of the story, where Tikal just suddenly decides to stop Sonic in the middle of a conversation with Tails and Knuckles, providing one last ounce of exposition to explain how Chaos wrecked shit up in the past. And it's not like time freezes or anything like that. No, as soon as Sonic's brought back to his time, Tails comments that Sonic just conked out. Could you imagine what that would have looked like from Tails or Knuckles' perspective?
The 7 emeralds are the servers. Chaos is power enriched by the heart.
Nice visualization here.
I'm all for playing as multiple characters to get the full story, but the execution here leaves a lot to be desired. It's a mess, pure and simple. The individual stories are fine, but the main plot is just, ugh. Okay, the story is out of the way, time for the game itself.
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure allows you to control 6 different characters, each bringing their own playstyle to the table. Like I said earlier, you can only pick Sonic when you begin, but soon enough you'll unlock Tails, Knuckles, Amy, E101 Gamma, and Big the Cat in that order. In terms of stages, there are a total of 11, each equipped with their own character-specific challenges. Now, there are 11 stages, but not every character gets to explore them all. Since Sonic is the main character, he has the biggest adventure as he goes through 10 of the 11 stages.
Makes sense.
Tails explores about half of that with shorter stages to boot. Knuckles gets 4 stages, Amy only gets 3, Gamma runs through 5, and Big for some reason gets 4. Emerald Coast is a lovely little resort area in Station Square that contains giant killer whales that want Sonic dead. Expect to see a lot of that throughout Sonic's 3D career. These whales have it out for Sonic the Hedgehog. Windy Valley
Sonic
a
versus
lot
the
of high-speed
whales.
twists and turns and a non-lethal tornado. Seriously, 1/3 of the stage is Sonic climbing up a tornado. Video game logic at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Casino Island requires you to play pinball games to collect enough rings to get to the Chaos Emerald, and, well, you guys all know what I think.
Always casino levels.
I do enjoy the Knights cameo, though. This game was released around the time it was popular. Ice Cat from Sonic 3 makes a return, and while it's nothing remarkable, I do get a kick out of the snowboarding sequence at the end of Sonic's level. Twinkle Park is a pretty cool place. I love the theme park aesthetics, though I find the rooftop sequence a bit hard to control. Speed Highway is one of my favorite levels. It's a great sense of speed, memorable set pieces, and just an overall pleasant experience. Red Mountain is loads of fun as well. It rewards you for your curiosity and contains a bunch of little shortcuts and such that contains hidden extra lives, power-ups, the works. Sky Deck. Ugh, what a pain in the ass. There's so many ways to die here. If it's not a bottomless pit, it's the awkward as hell level design that can fuck with your controls, which can also lead to a bunch of camera issues. Ugh, this tilted view makes me dizzy. I just want it to end, goddammit.
Yeah.
Lost World is okay, but nothing mind-blowing. The first half of the stage, especially the snake sequence, feels a bit off. It feels like the camera is constantly trying to fight against a snake in this area, leading to some incredibly awkward jump angles. I like the gravity panels in the second half, but only because I love using the spin dash to jump across large chunks of the level. Hot Shelter is a level only Amy, Gamma, and Big travel through. Since none of them are remotely fast, the level itself is rather short and very platform heavy. It kind of reminds me a lot of a Mario game, to be honest. Final Egg is a pretty decent final level, although I should note that it's the first level in Gamma's adventure, just nowhere near as big or difficult. It can be annoying at times, especially with the painfully slow platforming sections, but it has a lot of design elements that remind me of the classic titles. In between each stage awaits one of 3 hub worlds, Station Square, the Mystic Ruins, or the Egg Carrier. Some of you may already be aware that I'm just not a fan of hub worlds in general. I'd rather just go from stage to stage like the classic titles, but thankfully I don't find these particular hub worlds to be that intrusive. Firstly, you can explore them about as fast as you would a regular stage. Secondly, you have to call to tell you exactly what you need to do or where to go so you're never lost. Thirdly, each hub world has memorable set pieces to make them easier to explore and remember. And lastly, they're small and confined. Again, I'd rather not have hub worlds to begin with, but if they have to be in the game, I'm glad they were structured like this. The actual worlds themselves, though, are a bit barren. You can talk to the townspeople to get a sense of atmosphere or an understanding of the worlds
Definitely
themselves,
gotta talk to the swimsuit girls.
But it's all rather pointless shit. There's this one girl who's having a hard time trying to hit on the cashier in the burger shop, and she slowly starts building the courage to do so, but besides that, I can't remember anybody else. Majora's Mask, this ain't. Every once in a while you'll have a boss fight, and if it isn't against Dr. Robotnik himself or some version of Chaos, it's against one of the heroes themselves. Let me be blunt for the sake of time. Character battles are outright laughable. Check this out. The only thing I'm doing with Gamma here is mashing the shoot button.
Oh no!
Wow.
They're good for a laugh, but in terms of an actual fight, they're terrible.
Oh no!
You said it, Knuckles. My biggest problem with boss encounters is the repetitiveness. I'm looking at you, Chaos 4. You have to fight this guy a total of 3 times. Once in Sonic's story, once in Tails' story, and once in Knuckles' story.
Okay.
It never gets any better. It's uninteresting, the guy can barely damage you, it's just boring. See, it's causing me to be redundant. This also applies to some of the mini-games you can play during the quest. For instance, there's a Sky Chase mini-game where Sonic and Tails ride the tornado and chase down the Egg Carrier. You play this game twice in Sonic's story, but since Tails is with him, you also play it twice in his story.
Wow.
And it's not like the levels change or anything between characters, no, you play the same 2 stages twice. The Robotnik fights are undoubtedly a lot more interesting, though you don't fight him nearly as often as you would in a classic title. In fact, Sonic only fights him twice in his story,
That's
as
surprising.
does Tails, and Knuckles never fights him at all. Amy gets to wall up the robot that chases her throughout her adventure, and while I find it enjoyable, I just wish there was more to it. Gamma's boss fights are just pathetic. I can beat them all just by pushing the shoot button, I'm dead serious. Yeah, you can't do that with the final boss, but Gamma's still 1 for 5. Big? So what about the characters themselves? Let's see how the Sonic team brought our beloved heroes into the 3rd dimension. Sonic is all about high-speed antics and platforming. If you're not trying to get to the Chaos Emerald, you're busting open an animal capsule like the classic games.
Cool.
Just about everything Sonic could do in the 2D games, he can do here. The spin dash, jumping on enemies, everything minus the insta-shield. Remember the gold shield power-up in Sonic 3D Blast, the one that allowed you to home in on targets for easy kills with the push of a button? Well, it's now been incorporated as one of Sonic's trademark techniques, the homing attack. By pushing the jump button in mid-air, Sonic will home in on any enemy within range, taking them out with ease. You can also use it to target spring pads for hidden goodies or just to make things easier for yourself. The homing attack is a godsend, and one I'm glad the programmers developed for Sonic. Jumping or spin dashing is still an effective way to kill enemies, but the homing attack keeps things moving, which I like. Sonic can later upgrade his skill set by discovering the Lightspeed shoes, which allows Sonic to perform the Lightspeed attack, which, ironically, is so damn slow. You have to charge it up for about 4 seconds, and then you can use it to zoom across the Trail of Rings. You can later discover the Crystal Ring to reduce the charge-up time, but unless the level requires me to use it, I barely use this technique. It's such a pace breaker. There's also the Ancient Light upgrade, which allows you to use the Lightspeed attack on enemies, and it is required in order to continue your adventure, but again, I rarely use it except against the Chaos 6 fight because it does double the damage. Jumping and the homing attack is really all I need to take care of enemies. With Tails, it's your job to get to the goal before Sonic does. Because of this, Tails' levels are shorter and take very little time to complete, especially when you know how to take advantage of Tails' abilities. Like in the older games, Tails can fly by holding down the jump button, but he'll become tired after flying for too long. While on the ground, Tails can attack enemies with a tail spin, but if you're at full speed when attacking, you'll roll into enemies instead, which works just as fine. With a little exploring, you can find the jet anklet for Tails, which allows him to fly faster, and you can also discover the rhythm badge, allowing Tails to perform a continuous tail spin attack, which is awesome. The only problem I have with Tails is that I find it real easy to lose control of myself. Now, I'm not sure whether or not I just can't help myself or something, but I love trying to fly over everything as fast as I can. Could you blame me? Tails' levels are all about racing to the finish, so I just want to go fast. Overall, I think Tails was brought into the 3D world just fine. He has everything that made him unique in the 2D games, and while it's still a bit rough around the edges, it's a damn fine attempt. I just wish his levels were a bit longer. Knuckles is all about locating pieces of the Master Emerald. His version of the levels are rather boxed in and confined, so it's more about exploration and the joy of the hunt rather than speed and platforming. While I'm bummed out by that, thankfully Knuckles is still just as acrobatic as he was in the older games. He can still run fast, glide in the air, and climb walls. He can also now combat enemies with punches, but I personally just jump or glide into enemies. I find it more reliable. To locate emerald pieces, you need to pay attention to your radar on the bottom of the screen. The faster it beeps, the closer you are to an emerald piece. If you need assistance, you can have Tikal point you in the direction you need to be going, so you're never really lost. Eventually, Knuckles will gain access to the shovel claw because some emerald pieces can end up underground, though that rarely happens in my case. You can still use it to find hidden goodies underneath patches of dirt, so we have that. You can also get the fighting gloves, allowing Knuckles to perform the maximum heat Knuckles attack. Sounds awesome, right? I barely use it. Again, I prefer to jump or glide on enemies. Plus, they're yellow and ugly looking. While I'm disappointed that Knuckles doesn't get into the action like Sonic or Tails does, his levels are still rather fast-paced, and the radar does a good job on letting you know how close you are to an emerald piece. His levels are generally well-structured, and I never find myself overly frustrated, with the exception of his version of the Sky Deck. Seriously, this level is shit no matter who you are. Alright, the main trio's out of the way. Time for the newcomers. First, there's Amy and her first ever playable debut. Think of Amy as Sonic, only nowhere near as fast, no homing attack, can't jump on enemies, and can't even roll into a ball. Actually, scratch that. Amy is nothing like Sonic except that they're both hedgehogs. Amy's method of attack is her Pico Pico hammer, which works, but it's a bit delayed. When running at full speed, Amy can use her hammer to perform a super jump, which is good for just avoiding things or taking shortcuts if you can aim it just right. Amy's playstyle is a bit more traditional than, say, Sonic or Tails. It isn't about speed, but rather just trying to avoid the robot and reach the exit. As a result, she comes across rather bleak to me. When I'm playing a Sonic game, I expect each character to have some sort of high speed, which Amy clearly doesn't have unless she's climbing upstairs for some reason. But Amy overall is more of a chore than fun to me. Thankfully, she only has 3 stages.
It's kind of fun to me, I don't know.
A small kick out of this minigame she plays to get an upgrade.
The hammer seems satisfying.
E101 Gamma is all about shooting and blowing shit up. Gamma's the only character in the game that has a time limit in his stages. To keep the timer going, Gamma needs to lock on multiple targets to add more time to the counter. Frankly, I never got the whole time limit aspect of Gamma's playstyle. What happens? Do the robots at the end of the level move somewhere else? I was never clear on that. But anyway, Gamma's levels aren't really big to begin with. He's faster than Amy, but still nowhere near as fast as Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles. You can later upgrade his cannon to have a bigger blast radius, but I swear it doesn't really do much. You can also nab an upgrade that allows Gamma to hover, allowing you better control with platforms and such. Gamma's playstyle isn't that bad, to be honest, but I think it could have been a bit more fleshed out, like bigger stages and definitely better boss fights. Seriously, I'm just hitting one button.
Wow.
Finally, we have Big. Big. Like I
what does he
earlier,
do?
Big's story involves him searching for his pal, Froggy. Big is a fisherman, it's all he knows. To retrieve Froggy, Big needs to cast his lure and hope to God the frog takes the bait. Once you get a hit, it's just a matter of luring the frog in and booyah, the level's done. Okay, now for the bullshit. I hate Big's style of gameplay. Fishing? Who the hell asked for this? I mean, you could argue the same thing for Gamma and Amy, but at least they're still based around platforming and such, but fishing? Why would I want to fish in a Sonic game? It's not like you have to conquer enemies or ride dash panels or go through loops. No, you just approach the pool of water Froggy's in, sit on your ass, and fish. When you cast your lure, you can manipulate the string by tilting the analog stick, which can catch the attention of, no, go away, I don't want you, I want, Okay, yeah, you can catch other things besides Froggy, but it does nothing but improve your score. Well, I don't care about that, I just want Froggy. If you reel in your string too fast, it's a possibility that the string will break, costing you a life. Apparently, Big never keeps any spare fishing line with him.
Wow.
There we go, you're all mine now, wait, what happened? What happened? Did he just let go? What the? He did it again. Why does that happen? Oh my god, I just want to catch the damn frog. There we go. Jesus. Oh, I lost that frog. 7 minutes? My god.
Wow.
Right before the second stage, Big can nab the flotation device upgrade, allowing him to swim and get right next to Froggy for an easy catch. But why can't I just grab him? He's right there. Do I really need to use my fishing rod? Why can't I invest in a fishing net? What kind of fisherman are you? Okay, on a serious note, Big's gameplay just sucks. I couldn't really care less for the character. He's just the big oaf to serve as some sort of comic relief. I don't really have an issue with the character himself.
I love the design,
as to why this sort of style was incorporated into the game to begin with. I mean, if it were something optional, like a mini-game I could play to kill time, then I would have no problem with this. But it's required to get to the final fight with perfect chaos. What does this have anything to do with this? Answer, nothing. If I can think of anything positive to say about Big, is that once you get the flotation device upgrade, you can end the other levels really quickly. Completing Big's story should only take you about half the time it would take to clear Amy or Gamma's scenario, but the fact of the matter is, this type of gameplay shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. If I want to fish, I'll go out with my grandpa and fish. Keep that shit out of my Sonic game. Once you complete a level with a character, you're rewarded with an emblem. You can even find some hidden emblems inside the hub worlds. You can revisit any level you completed in trial mode, where you can attempt to complete the same stage with a different objective. For instance, with Sonic, you can try to beat a level under a certain amount of time, or with Knuckles, you can try to get all the emerald pieces without using to call for help. It's simple stuff that could potentially add some replay value if you're into collecting things like that. Personally, I haven't done so. One day, but not now. Maybe for an achievement or something. I guess the last thing to talk about is the Chow Garden, something I never actually wasted any time on, but I figured I'd mention it anyway for the sake of the review. You remember back in the late 90s where Tamagotchis were all the rage, you know, those virtual pet simulators? Well, that's what the Chow Garden is. Chow are adorable looking blue mutants that you can raise for the sake of raising. Yeah, that's it. You do this by feeding it fruit, which you can find in these trees, or by letting it absorb the essence of animals. You see, every time you kill an enemy in the main game, you can collect the animal inside.
Okay.
By giving the animal to the Chow, it can absorb its properties and get a boost in stats depending on the animal itself. With enough care, you can have your Chow participate in Chow racing, which is necessary if you want to get all the game's emblems. Thing is, I never bother with this sort of thing. I know that sounds weird coming from a guy who loves Pokemon and such, but raising Chow is nowhere near as exciting as raising Pokemon. I mean, you pet them, okay, you can pick them up, okay, you can cheer them in a race, okay, if you're playing the Dreamcast version, you can transfer your Chow into the virtual memory unit, alright, you can buy stuff for them at the Black. Why does an empty can cost 4,000 rings? But yeah, I guess the Chow Garden can be considered a distraction, but that's about it for me. Funny thing is, I know there are people who enjoy the Chow Gardens more than the actual game itself. I mean,
I can see how this could be addicting.
What the hell are you guys seeing in this that I don't? Different tastes, I guess. I do love the Chow racing music.
Looks pretty adorable.
In fact, I think it's time to talk about the soundtrack as a whole. I love it, I love it, I love it. With Sonic's jump into 3D, the music obviously had to be kicked up a notch, and damn that they do a good job. The sheer variety and the quality of the songs really stands out and gives each stage its own atmosphere and feeling. You got your rock tunes, techno, pop, jazz, it's all here, ladies and gentlemen. From the sewers of Casinopolis to the eeriness of the Lost Temple to the sheer headbanging goodness of the second half of the final egg, there's something here for everyone. For years, it's been my favorite Sonic soundtrack of all time, but I think the Sonic CD Japanese soundtrack is finally on the verge of taking that position. Regardless, the soundtrack is amazing, though I wouldn't expect anything less from a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the presentation. The voice direction is...
Oh yeah!
Yeah!
This is happening!
Questionable.
Seems a little dated.
For the first time ever in the gaming universe, Sonic and company are fully voiced, and the end result is... well...
chaos!
I wouldn't classify it as horrendous, but I guess they weren't sure how to have Sonic and the rest act in their 3D debut.
Hey Knuckles, what's up?
Hate the delivery of that line.
Well, graphically speaking, it's fantastic with Dreamcast standards. All the models are nicely detailed, and I think they did a good job overall of taking our heroes and villains from the Genesis days and making them 3D. For the first time, Sonic and company are rocking more detail, like added eye colors, and they look a bit more mature than the classic days. It's an art style transition that I'm perfectly okay with. I love how Sonic looked back in the day, but I also like the way he looks now. Now that's just graphics. In terms of in-game animations and cutscenes, they're horrible.
Wonder what you think of a certain
Every
movie
character
design.
moves like they have something jammed up their ass, and lip syncing is atrocious. I wish I could blame the
those
Dreamcast,
facial
but look at games like the
movements.
Crash Bandicoot series for the PlayStation 1. Not only do they pack better lip syncing, but the animations are better as well. Here, it's the same repeated hand and body movements with incredibly awkward-looking mouth animations.
Wow,
Even when they attempt to be cinematic, it still looks incredibly stiff, and sometimes the graphics just flat-out glitch up. Look at Sonic's eye here. I had no idea his head was also a slot machine. Tails does that on occasion as well, and
what? Okay. Yeah. Looks normal. Oh.
In 2003, an enhanced port of Sonic Adventure was released
for
Nintendo GameCube titled Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut. The version I'm playing here is the Xbox Live port that was released about 2 years ago. It's the same thing, so don't worry, it just looks a little cleaner. Kinda wish it had widescreen support though. The character models were refined and smoother, the load times have been cut down, the frame rate was increased from 30 to 60 frames per second, and there are more emblems to collect with the addition of Mission Mode. Mission Mode requires you to find a specific mission located in a hub world and then travel inside one of the stages to complete the objective. As you probably guessed by this point, I didn't even bother. I couldn't really care, to be honest. I always get my fill just by playing Sonic Adventure normally. There are times where I feel like completing B or A rank missions for stages, but most of the time I'm not in the mood. If you manage to collect all the emblems, you do unlock a Metal Sonic skin for Sonic, but I don't find that terribly interesting. But that's probably because I haven't unlocked it myself yet. You can even unlock Game Gear games when you start completing enough missions, and that's nice I guess, but I have the Sonic Mania Collection Plus to fulfill my Game Gear needs. I should mention that while I do like the additions and graphical fix-ups that a DX port includes, I think the Dreamcast version had better lighting. There are times in the DX version where the characters look like they're made out of plastic, and that distracts the hell out of me. Some stages in the Dreamcast version also have a better sense of presence thanks to the proper lighting and shadows, and maybe I'm just seeing things, but something seemed to be lost in translation for the DX port. Also, for some weird-ass reason, some graphics were outright changed or removed. This is especially noticeable in stages like Twinkle Park and Final Egg. Does anybody know why this is? I was always curious, but my research turned up fruitless. Most people I know that love Sonic Adventure grew up with the DX port, and there's nothing wrong with that, I just think the Dreamcast version looks better from an aesthetical viewpoint. Again, I love the smoother models, but the Dreamcast version made them blend in better with their surroundings. To me, Sonic Adventure was an ambitious jump and one that I think paid off. It feels like it tries its best to emulate the feel of the Genesis games, and while I may have some issues with its presentation, the gameplay itself was pretty damn fun to me. Well, half of it. I can't say I enjoy Sonic Adventure as a whole because I'm indifferent to Gamma shooting levels, I don't like Amy's scenario, and I sure as hell don't like Big's fishing. When I'm talking about Sonic Adventure, I'm usually referring to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles gameplay. They're the most fun to me and do a great job of emulating their playstyles from the Genesis games. The level design in Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles stages are top-notch, and there are all sorts of nooks and crannies you can discover if you keep an eye out for them. It feels very rewarding when I discover an alternate method of reaching a checkpoint, or finding some hidden goodies when I decide to stray from one of the main paths. This is all topped off with good control. Control is usually a very difficult thing to explain without actually playing the game yourself, but I will say now, I believe this game has the best control of any 3D Sonic game to date. First and foremost, characters feel like they have actual weight to them. When you move these characters, you feel like these characters, which I think helps in a psychological aspect. They're incredibly responsive to button inputs and react appropriately with different terrain. If you go downhill, you're going to go faster and faster. If you go up a hill, you're going to eventually slow down. That's how it should be. I hear that some people don't like how floaty jumps are in this game, but to me, I think it helps with making accurate jumps. The control overall doesn't punish you for not being pixel perfect, it lets you be a little loose, which I think is really important for a better experience. Combined with good level design, Sonic Adventure definitely takes advantages of each character's abilities, and as a result, it feels like a genuine Sonic game to me. If I could harp on one thing, there are times where I feel the level design doesn't completely accommodate for Sonic's speed, as there are times where I can't help but run into the side of a wall when I'm moving really fast, especially in stages like Windy Valley. However, things like that don't happen to me all the time, but I thought I'd point that out anyway. Other than that though, with great level design, fantastic music, and great control, Sonic Adventure, well half of it anyway, is something I recommend any fan of platformers to try out. It's not for everyone, I'll say that now, but I still think it's aged rather well.
Jesus, it's like my longest review yet. We're just getting started with the Sonic the Hedgehog marathon.
Good to know. First one I've seen.
Nothing to do now but press forward. So next time we meet, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at Sonic Adventure 2 for the Sega Dreamcast.
Makes sense.
And the re-release Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the Nintendo GameCube. So see you guys then. May God have mercy on myself, this channel, and all of you. Every single last one of you.
Well, alright. Oh. He's associated with Machinima?
You should actually pull the other one from behind. Now you have a magical ass.
Okay, I could do that.
Wow. Okay. Well, huh. There we go. That was, yeah, that was a good review. I mean, it was pretty thorough, I guess. I mean, I think. I've never played the game, so I don't really know. But he seemed to go into a lot of detail. It was a long review. And, yeah, the game looked interesting. I don't know. I'd have to play it, but I think the other styles of play, they look like they would add quite a bit of variety to it, which I mean, I personally might appreciate that. Even the fishing, that could be kind of relaxing and different. I don't know. I mean, you have to do it, but so it's being forced on you. I guess that's an annoyance, but yeah, I don't know. It's probably not that bad. So, yeah. And Amy looked cool. I don't, just hammer swinging, not as fast, just traditional platforming kind of deal. Yeah, it's probably fine. But I mean, I guess I guess I should take his word for it. He's the Sonic fan. He's the one who has actually played it. Yeah, this was interesting. It does look like it transitions pretty well into 3D, at least here. I mean, I've heard that a lot of the 3D Sonic games aren't very good, but this one, I mean, it looks like it looked kind of fun to me. So yeah, I'm not sure, but we'll well, yeah. Just kind of generally uninformed when it comes to these games, but I mean, it's interesting to learn more. And he presented it pretty well, pretty thought out review it seems like, and yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm not really sure there's more I can say there. It yeah, looked like an interesting game. Anyway, hope you liked the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.